Miss Smith, I seen a lot of pies. 4-5 in my back pocket, got 4 9s in my trap rocket. Young shooter got a black rocket. Look for the D's, they in Cavs. Watch, gave a dope
for the college football. We're just going to talk about scenarios. Things go this way, things go that way. What teams we can really see at the end of the year being in the playoff. And obviously Alabama, if Alabama wins out, they're going to be in the playoff. Georgia has a couple of key things. I think Georgia gets in. I don't know who's going to win, who's going to lose between Michigan, Clemson, and Notre Dame. I don't know which one of those 3 teams is going to lose. But I think 1 or 2 of those teams will lose. Now, if I'm thinking it's going to be Clemson. I really don't think Notre Dame is going to lose. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to win out. Now, that USC game is going to be a huge game, but I think Notre Dame can win out, and I think Notre Dame will get that 2nd seed after Alabama. So then I'm thinking Clemson's going to lose. Clemson has looked really good the last couple of weeks. They're really putting it all together. And so we're getting ready for a big, big breakdown. That's what I'm looking like in Clemson. And in the ACC, or the team that can represent the ACC, kind of does this every year. If you think about Miami last year, it's like, man, they look really good, but they haven't played anybody this year. You know, Clemson used to always get a pass because Louisville and Florida State were in there, and it was like, you're going to have to get through Lamar Jackson, and you're going to have to get through Jimbo Fisher's team that he's bringing to the table, and they're going to have a damn good defense. And those 2 entities are at the bottom now. The 2 entities that have came along is Syracuse and Boston College. NC State is another one, but NC State did not play good against Clemson. Syracuse played very well in Death Valley. They were Clemson's 1 loss last year. And the thing is who did Clemson lose last year? Syracuse, and Syracuse was not a good team. They've got a couple more games on this schedule. They're going to have to play South Carolina. South Carolina's not a bad team. And to me, I'm thinking this Boston College game is going to be a big, big game, a big, tough game for Clemson. I don't think Clemson plays as good on the road, and I think this is going to be a really tough game. A.J. Dillon, if healthy, is going to run all over Clemson. I'm just going to put that out there. The sophomore A.J. Dillon will run all over Clemson this week, and that's a bold prediction, but that's coming out. Michigan is basically in. They're 1 losses to Notre Dame. That's not a bad loss. That's probably, out of all the teams that have a loss, that's probably the best loss. That Michigan has the best loss, and they also control their destiny completely. The Ohio State game at the end of the year, they have to nut up. They have to win that game, and winning that game gets them to a national championship. That's how Michigan and Ohio State is supposed to be. Whoever wins that game should be playing for a playoff every single year. That's how legendary those 2 teams are. And I think Michigan gets it this year. You know, earlier in the year when Michigan lost that first game to Notre Dame, you went ahead and you put them in a category as a contending team that if enough things fall their way, they can get back in this. And they have completely taken that and turned it all the way around. They've completely dominated everybody in the Big Ten thus far. Other than their bad game against Northwestern, which Northwestern looks like a pretty good team. Their only loss in the Big Ten is to Michigan. And they've lost to Notre Dame. And they have like 1 more. I think they lost to Duke, a bad loss to Duke. But other than that, they're like 5-3 or 5-3, or it might be 5-4 now. I don't really know. But I think Michigan gets in. I think Notre Dame gets in, and I think Alabama gets in. So we got 1 spot. I'm thinking Clemson's going to lose, and that's going to open up the ACC. Now, there's about 11 teams. To me, there's 11 teams that have a chance. You know, we got UCF as that 11th team, 10 LSU. LSU has to have so many things fall their way. The loss to Alabama, their loss to Florida. They can't suffer any more losses, and they have to have a lot of things happen. They have to have Alabama lose to Auburn. They have to have Georgia beat Alabama in the national championship game. They have to have a lot of other dominoes to fall as well. So they're very unlikely. Ohio State, they just have to keep winning, beat Michigan, win the Big Ten championship, and hopefully enough dominoes have fallen that they can creep in. But their chances are very unlikely as well. But at the same time, they have a good chance because they control their destiny against Michigan, and they only have 1 loss. West Virginia and OU. So when we talk about West Virginia and OU, this one's tough because West Virginia and OU still need to play each other. Potentially, these are the 2 teams that will meet in the Big 12 championship game. So let's say West Virginia loses 1, But West Virginia does well enough to get to the Big 12 championship game, and they beat OU. So that basically that just knocks everybody. That knocks both of their contenders out. What they need to happen is they need one of these teams to beat one of them others, if it's OU or West Virginia, and then the same thing needs to happen in the Big 12 championship game. Because if the same thing doesn't happen, this conference, again, has no chance of getting a team in the playoff. So I think West Virginia is a good team. I think OU is a good team. I think OU gets the better of them both times. I think OU is in a perfect position. They have a really good loss on their schedule with Texas. And the thing is a lot of times teams lose too late in the year. Last year, we thought Alabama lost too late. This year, OU lost at the perfect time. You know, OU every year needs one wake-up call, and they get that wake-up call, and they usually finish the year pretty good. That was the wake-up call they needed. I'm not impressed by their defense at all. I think, you know, they're going to have to score, as they have, they're going to have to score more points than the other team that they're playing. And I don't know if they get in, but them, OU, is who I think will win the Big 12. Them and Georgia, to me, are really the only teams that have a chance. I think Washington State, they play bad in the Apple Cup every year. I think Washington comes and wins that game. So, and then they need to win the Pac-12 championship, and they honestly need a couple of other things to fall their way. So for me, Washington State is a candidate, don't get me wrong, with their one loss, but they're not. They really don't have a chance to get in. What we're looking at is basically Clemson, Georgia, and OU. So if Clemson can rebound if they lose, they hadn't lost, but let's say Clemson loses and they rebound and they're sitting at about 6 behind OU and Georgia. Or they're at 5 behind OU and Georgia. So Georgia loses their SEC championship game against Alabama. And so they knock themselves out. They fall down. OU wins, Clemson wins. So we're looking at a one-loss Clemson team. We're looking at a one-loss OU team. Basically, that's who I think will be the last team in. And what's funny is I've had 12 teams on my list throughout the year because I've wanted to be recently I've slowly, you know, made it smaller and smaller as more teams eliminate themselves, but I have it down to about 11 teams. But I had a spot for a 12 team, and I was just trying to think, you know, if there was a team on the outside looking in, who could really make an impact? And this is going to be a big surprise, but this is fun to think about. Boston College. Boston College is 7-2, a loss to Purdue, and a loss to NC State. Both on the road. And both not good losses, but not necessarily bad losses. And they have Clemson coming into town this week. They have another game somewhere after that, and then they have Syracuse coming. They're playing at Florida State, and then they have Syracuse coming. So once they beat Clemson, let's say they beat Florida State, and they beat Syracuse. They're the representative of the ACC on that side. They win the ACC championship. Enough dominoes fall. Boston College is in a position to maybe stir this all up. So I don't think, and I don't want you to think, oh man, this kid thinks Boston College is going to the playoff. I'm just saying, out of, you know, you look at all these other teams, you could have thrown Texas at that 12 spot. You could have thrown Penn State. I mean, you wouldn't throw Penn State. You could throw Utah State, Fresno State. You can throw tons of teams at that 12 spot. You could throw Kentucky, where they probably will throw Kentucky because Kentucky's 7-2 and has played probably one of the best schedules and has some of the best losses. So Kentucky's probably the 12th team, but does Kentucky really have a chance to make the playoff? No. Boston College has a legitimate shot at really shaking things up if they can beat Clemson this week, if they can win out, play in the ACC championship game, and then if enough dominoes fall, they're going to be right there. Now, I think that if they were compared to like an OU or if they're compared to another team, they're not going to get in. So I don't think Boston College is going to get in. But if you're looking for a team that's not in that top 12 that might creep into that top 10, top 8 by the end of the year, I would be looking at Boston College. A.J. Dillon, great player. They play really good defensively. This team's not nothing to ride home about. Dual threat quarterback who's all right, a sophomore. Their best receiving weapon is Sweeney, their tight end. So I mean, this isn't just a world beater team or just a great team. I mean, they barely beat mediocre teams. So like, it would be crazy if they even got to that point. But I don't know. I mean, anything could happen. I'm thinking my prediction: Bama, Notre Dame, Michigan, and OU is what I'm projecting. And then Bama, OU play each other. Notre Dame, Michigan rematch at a neutral site. I mean, we don't have to get into predictions yet because this probably won't even happen. But I would say Michigan is a better team at the end of the year than they were at the first of the year. They win that game, and I say Bama beats OU in a high scoring game, and Bama Michigan national championship, Harbaugh, Saban, sounding about right. You know, they've been talking a lot of shit about Harbaugh for like 5 years now because he can't ever beat, you know, Urban Meyer. And it's funny, you know, like I was saying, I kind of got off, but I was saying like when Michigan lost that game to Notre Dame, I kind of writ them off as a team that's just, they have a purpose. I was like, they have a purpose. This team has a purpose this year. It may just not be to go to a national championship. And I said, oh, their purpose is to beat Ohio State in one of those late weeks when they're undefeated and knock Ohio State out. But now things have changed, and Michigan is actually in control. You know, they're not a pretender, they're a contender.
Facts. Running around with the same niggas, you don't know niggas, nigga don't speak. Gassed up with you running out, niggas running mouth like a slow leak. She was gaining weight while she was with you. Bitch, fuck with me, she probably won't eat. My little nigga doing 7 straight with good behavior, that's at least